Welcome to Soul Unveiled, a space where we explore the unseen, embrace the unknown, and uncover the deepest layers of who we are. Hi, I'm Cortisha, and each week we'll dive into the mysteries of shadow work, spiritual awakenings, energy healing, and self-discovery. If you're on a journey of transformation, you're exactly where you need to be. Let's unveil the soul. In this first episode, I want to start with something powerful, something that will change the way you see yourself and the world around you. Today we're talking about shadow work. What is it? How it shows up in our daily lives, and why facing our shadow is the way to breaking toxic cycles, healing our past, and stepping into our most authentic self, which is most important. This journey won't always be comfortable, but trust me, it will be worth it. So take a deep breath, settle in, and let's begin. Before we get into the why of shadow work, we need to understand what it is, right? So the term shadow was first introduced by a Swiss psychologist named Carl Jung, who believed that every single one of us has a shadow self, right? Like a hidden part of our psyche where we bury all of the parts of ourselves that we've been taught to reject. Think of it as when you were a child. Maybe you were told that being too emotional was a sign of weakness, and that more than likely stemmed with the boys than the girls, right? So you learn to suppress your feelings. You learn to bury them. You learn to not show them to your parents, right? Maybe you were made to feel guilty for wanting too much attention. So you started to shrink yourself to make others feel comfortable. And that tends to wrap around the people pleasing. When you are not shown the necessary attention that you were supposed to be given as a child. And I say that because some people can misinterpret that and be like, well, they just want to show attention because they're acting out, they're being bad or they're spoiled or whatever the case may be. But no, there is certain attention that you are to be giving your child in their early years and beyond. And that attention is what cultivates their mind to be more open and free and comfortable with themselves. It establishes those boundaries early for them. So shadow actually was created specifically when there was not that specific kind of attention being shown, and it caused you to shrink, to just kind of not dumb down yourself, but make sure that others are comfortable, make sure that others are taken care of, make sure that others' needs are being met over your needs. And that's a part of shadow. Over time, these rejections, they don't just disappear. They sink into your subconscious, right? And then even though you might not see them, they continue to shape your reality. Even though you're not aware because there's a lot of things that you're not aware of when it comes to the subconscious. And those things that you are not aware of are the main factors that shape your reality, that shape your world, that shape your existence, that shape what you perceive and what you see your outside world, right? That's why shadow work is so powerful, because it's not about becoming a different person, it's about becoming whole. It's about releasing what you have been conditioned to believe is you and accepting everything about you, including the shadow. Okay? So there are signs, okay? There are signs that your shadow is running your life. Okay, there's absolute signs. There's red flags, there's green flags, there's yellow flags. There's all kinds of signs that show you that your shadow is running your life. So, how do you know if your shadow is in control? First and foremost, you keep repeating the same painful patterns, whether it's a toxic relationship, whether it's self sabotage, or you're kind of never feeling like you're enough. It is a constant loop that keeps playing over and over in your mind and in your outside world. Like, you will see this constantly. You'll see yourself. You'll get into a relationship. You think it's great at the beginning. And then what's funny is your intuition. Your intuition will tell you that something's not right when it starts to get, I don't want to say when it starts to get good, but when it starts to get comfortable. Your intuition will tell you that there's something different and not good. It's something that you've seen, that you're familiar with. It'll kind of give you this fight or flight type of feeling, but normally what people will do is they'll ignore it, and instead of sitting and focusing and listening to that, they will think that it's something going on outside of them, right? So then the patterns start to come up. You'll start to get triggered off of something they would have said. They, of course, they're probably not healed. They probably haven't done any shadow work, so they're gonna get triggered off of your triggering, and it's just a constant loop of just being in a toxic relationship, right? You're accept or you are, and this is for the people pleasers, you are again making sure that the other person's needs are being met before yours, and you're not speaking up for yourself when it comes to reciprocity and accountability. And so you are, for the sake of quote unquote making things work out, you you don't say anything. You don't want to fight. You don't want to do anything. You kind of just, and you let the other person kind of just be like this toxic. It's not toxic. Maybe they're not even aware that they're being toxic, but you let this other person kind of railroad you and kind of use you in a sense. And it's not good for either one of you, right? So that's one sign. Another sign is you get triggered easily. as I mentioned. The triggers, maybe someone criticizes you, and then you feel that little fire exploding inside of you. Maybe rejection sends you into a spiral of self doubt. A lot of people go through that, a lot of people experience that. And triggers are definitely a sign that you need to do shadow work, that you need to sit down and really dig deep into the shadow side of yourself to heal or to understand, just to understand what's going on with you when you get to that point. Because when folks get triggered, there's a lot of reaction and not just responding. Because when you respond, there's a moment that you take to actually think about what you're going to say, what you're going to do. But when there's a reaction, it's quick, it's instant, and it can be very damaging and very dangerous, right? Another sign is you struggle with self worth and imposter syndrome. And I can attest to this one for sure, for sure. I can attest to the repeating painful patterns as well in a prior life. Because, disclaimer, I have done my shadow work, okay? But yes, I can attest to experiencing the repeated painful patterns, the triggers, and this third one here, the struggle with self-worth and imposter syndrome. More so on with the imposter syndrome, only because I am a Black indigenous woman, and there were times, and I kind of still struggle with this to this day. Maybe it's just anxiety, but um, there were times when I didn't believe that I belonged in certain spaces, or I felt very uncomfortable in certain rooms with people, or with certain people. I'll just say that. And so, and not because I was afraid of them or anything like that, but because part of my life, my younger life, I realized that I was different and different in a way that would hinder me from achieving the things that I desired to achieve, or that my dreams and things of that nature. And so, in that realization, it kind of hit me like, even though I could change the way I sound, even though I could look, or rather not look, but dress or present myself in a certain way, there was this one thing that I couldn't change. Actually, two, two things that I couldn't change, and that was, for one, being a girl, being a woman, and two, the color of my skin. And so that became a struggle for me a little bit. And then when I did break into the tech industry, I that was when it really hit me, because at that time it was, I even though there are so many pioneers before me that have been in the STEM industry, and women too that have been in the STEM industry. I didn't see that growing up. I didn't see it at all. And so I just, when I broke into it, it was just like, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? Am I supposed to be here? Also, I did not have support the way I thought I was going to get. So it really, ooh, I was really shaking. I was really like shaking in my boots there for a second. Like, I really don't feel like this is where I belong. But ultimately, I had to sit with that. And again, I'm continuing to heal and understand that within me. I'm understanding that shadow, that part of shadow of me. But yeah, that was a struggle for a little bit. Yeah, it's like no matter how much you achieve, you feel like a fraud. Like someone is going to find out that you don't actually deserve the success. You don't actually deserve the love. You don't actually deserve the happiness that you have, that you've already attained, right? And that's what I was feeling. That's part of self-sabotage too. That's for a later topic though. um, and the last sign that you know that your shadow is running your life is you suppress emotions instead of processing them. So when someone comes up to you and they're like, "Hey, you good?" and you're like, "Yeah, I'm fine," even though you're breaking down inside. You're having a nervous breakdown. You probably got a smile on your face, but you are crumbling on the inside, right? So you avoid confrontation at all costs, but deep down you feel resentment build up. And again, I can attest to experiencing all of these signs and experiencing and seeing and perceiving all of these signs in my life before I did my shadow work. This last one, I was afraid. I was afraid that because I would tell people that I'm good, knowing damn well that I wasn't, I was afraid that I was going to resent that other person, or that buildup of resentment was going to start happening for me. I tried my hardest, but I mean, you can't escape that. You can't remove yourself from experiencing that. It's because it's a part of it. The it's a part of the resentment buildup. It's just a cause and effect type of thing. And so I resented. Maybe it was for a little bit, but I resented, or the buildup of it was coming, and I found myself resenting people for what they would do, right? Crazy. Sounds familiar though, right? That's because your shadow isn't just an idea. It's not a thought in your head, okay? It's actively shaping your life. It's in your subconscious. It is running your life. But the good news is that you can take this power back. Yes, you heard me. You can take this power back. It's not gone, it's not lost. You can take it back. So let me tell you a story. I once knew someone, we'll call her Maya, okay, who always ended up in a relationship with that was an emotionally unavailable people. No matter how hard she tried, she kept attracting partners who were distant and who made her feel unseen, right? It wasn't until she started to do her shadow work that she realized that this pattern wasn't random. It was deeply connected to her childhood wounds. Growing up, Maya's father was absent, which is if you're an 80s baby, if you're a 90s baby, black family household, majority of the time daddy was not there, okay? And in Maya's instance, he was there but he worked late, missed important events, and never showed much affection. And now with that probably stemmed from his childhood, okay? Without realizing it, she spent her adult life chasing people who mirrored that same dynamic because it was familiar, right? You're only going to stay, you're only going to feel good because it's familiar to you. It's comfortable, right? So she saw the connection, and then she started to heal. She started to do her shadow work, and she stopped chasing love that felt like abandonment. And her relationships changed, and she changed just like that. This is the power of shadow work. It doesn't change your mind, it changes your reality. It doesn't change the 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 thoughts, the beliefs, the limiting beliefs that are the running in your head. No, it changes your whole outside perspective of things. So, how do you start working on your shadow, right? How do you do the shadow work, right? So if you're ready to begin your shadow work, your shadow journey, here's what you need to do to start, okay? Journaling. And one of the most important questions you need to ask yourself is, what traits in others irritate me the most? Or you could ask yourself, what part of myself do I feel I need to hide? Because majority of the time, not majority, all the time, that is what shadow is. It is the part of you that you want to hide from others. It is the ugly you. It's the ugly truth about who, not necessarily who you are. Actually, it's not about who you are because it's not who you are. But it is who you are, if that makes sense. And you have to sit down with it. You got to sit down with it and look at it, examine it, process it. Be like, okay, I see you. But why are you here, right? What are you trying to show me? What are you telling me that I need, right? Another thing you can do is meditation and reflection. Like I was saying, sit with your emotions, sit with your feelings, and let them come to the surface. You've got to acknowledge them instead of suppressing them. When I started, that's how I did it. I would sit in meditation and I would ask myself, who am I? I would ask myself, what is the ugliness about me? Why? The main question would be that I would ask myself is, why do I do this? Why am I triggered about that? Why do I feel these kind of emotions? And after asking those questions, I would literally just sit and I would wait in meditation to see what my soul, what my spirit would bring up for me. What emotion, what feeling would it bring up for me? I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about myself. I also learned a lot about my ancestors. Sure did. Sure did. Sure did. Shadow work can help with ancestor healing, with generational healing. Yes. Yes, it can. Yes, it can. Absolutely, yes, it can. I recommend that anybody doing shadow work tap into generational healing as well, because with you doing it, you are inevitably healing what your ancestors, what your generation prior to you, their pains, their shadows, their, like, what they went through and what they transferred over to you ultimately. It's a beautiful thing. I promise it is. Another thing you can do is inner child healing. Speak to your younger self. I did this as well. Give them the love and validation that they never received. So in my meditation, I would kind of remember myself as a child, and I would see where I didn't get, say, that specific attention that I needed, or where there was abandonment, where there was neglect, where there was just not the love that you would think a child of, say, that particular age would receive. I would think about those instances in my head where I could remember, of course, as a child, and would see where, okay, that's where that hurt. And then I would give my younger self, I would give my younger self, in that moment, in that vision of myself, I would give myself love and grace. And I would, oh my God, it's such a beautiful moment with yourself. That yes, emotions will definitely come up, will definitely come up. Your eyes aren't going to be dry, I promise. And so that inner child healing is definitely a game changer. That inner child healing, and that's a good place to start too. That's a great place to start when it comes to shadow work. But I'm going to tell you right now that shadow work isn't easy. It's not. It's very messy, and it's painful, very painful for some. That's why people don't do it, because it it brings up things that subconsciously you probably had buried, and you did not want to experience or relive it again. So, of course, it's gonna, you know, it's gonna be painful. It's gonna be messy. It's gonna hurt like a mother. It's gonna hurt. But it's so necessary. It's so necessary, and it's so worth it. And once you get into the process of it, once you get into the healing of it, some things you don't even need to, like, I mean, you need to heal it, but it doesn't even take that long. It probably one session, one meditation session, And you're like, okay. And your whole perspective of everything changes. But it's necessary, and it has to be done in order for you to be open, in order for you to heal, right? So, tell me, have you ever experienced a moment where your shadow revealed itself? A trigger, a pattern, a realization? Drop me a message. Reflect on it in your journal, or just sit with the feeling, right? Just sit with it. Tell somebody. So I said, drop me a message. Tell somebody, like, oh, dang, hey, I remember this, right? And let me know. Did this episode resonate with you? Or are you still feeling a block from it? Are you still feeling like you are just as lost before you even knew what shadow work was? Let me know, and maybe we can dive a little bit deeper into the topic in a later time. All right, y'all, that's it for today's episode of Soul Unveiled. If this resonated with you, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who needs it. Connect with me on Instagram at Connected Journey, or my TikTok handle at Connected Journey for more insights, and let's continue this journey together. Until next time,